The rain hadn't stopped all day. It tapped relentlessly against the tall glass windows of La Bellinotte, the most expensive Italian restaurant in downtown New York, a place where chandeliers hung like frozen raindrops and violins whispered over the hum of quiet conversations. Inside, the air smelled of truffles, old wine, and money. Amelia Torres, a 27-year-old waitress, tightened her apron and took a deep breath. She had been working double shifts for 3 months now, ever since her mother's heart surgery left her with medical bills she could barely understand, let alone pay. Her co-workers called her the sunshine of La Bellinotte because, no matter how tired she was, she smiled. She had a way of making customers feel seen, even the ones who didn't look at her twice. That night, though, something in the air felt heavy. The restaurant manager whispered nervously to the staff. "He's coming. Everyone, remember, perfect service. No mistakes." "Who's coming?" Amelia asked, placing a tray of champagne flutes on the bar. "Lorenzo De Luca," the manager said, eyes wide. "The billionaire. The owner. He's flying in from Milan tonight." Lorenzo De Luca. The name was whispered like a legend, and a warning. A self-made billionaire from Italy who built an empire of luxury resorts and restaurants. Charismatic in public, ruthless in private. The kind of man who could make or break careers with a single word. When he entered the restaurant, the atmosphere shifted. Tall, immaculately dressed in a black tailored suit, with silver at his temples and eyes like polished steel, he carried himself like someone who had never heard the word no. Amelia greeted him with a polite smile. "Good evening, Mr. De Luca. Welcome to La Bellinotte. May I take your coat?" He handed it over without looking at her. When she led him to his private table, he spoke quietly in Italian to the man beside him, his assistant, but loud enough for her to hear, "Guarda questa ragazza. Non capisce nemmeno chi ha davanti. Povera cameriera, così semplice. Look at this girl. She doesn't even know who she's standing before. Poor waitress, so simple." His assistant chuckled softly. Amelia froze for a second. She had understood every word. But she said nothing. She just smiled, the same smile she used when customers snapped fingers or forgot to say thank you. "Would you like some water, sir?" she asked softly. He nodded, dismissing her with a flick of his hand. The evening went on. Amelia served with quiet grace, but Lorenzo's eyes followed her occasionally, not out of admiration, but curiosity. There was something unsettling about how calm she was. How steady her hands remained, even when he barked an order in Italian that would have sent most waiters stumbling. Finally, near dessert, when the restaurant had thinned out and only soft piano music filled the room, Lorenzo leaned back in his chair and said, again, in Italian. "È incredible come certe persone restino felici servendo gli altri. Deve essere ignoranza o rassegnazione. It's incredible how some people stay happy serving others. It must be ignorance or resignation." This time, Amelia turned to him. Slowly. Her voice, when it came, was calm, but it carried the quiet strength of someone who had swallowed too much silence. "O forse," she said in flawless Italian, "è solo gratitudine. Non tutti servono per debolezza, signore. Alcuni servono perché sanno cosa significa essere senza." Or maybe, "Sir, it's gratitude. Not everyone serves out of weakness. Some serve because they know what it means to have nothing." The room went still. Even the pianist's hands hesitated on the keys. Lorenzo blinked. For a moment, he looked almost human, the mask slipping. "You speak Italian?" he asked, this time in English. "Yes," Amelia said, her voice steady. "Fluently. My grandmother was from Florence. She taught me everything, including what respect sounds like in every language." The word struck him harder than she intended. He stared at her, not angry, but embarrassed. No one had ever spoken to him like that. Not since he'd left Italy as a poor boy, mocked for his accent and clothes, determined to never be looked down upon again. Now, years later, he had become what he once despised. He cleared his throat. "Bring me another espresso," he said softly. She nodded. "Of course, sir." But something in his tone had changed. When she returned, he looked up at her and said quietly, "I was rude to you. I shouldn't have been." Amelia smiled, not out of forgiveness, but understanding. "You weren't rude, sir. You just forgot for a moment that wealth doesn't make you more human." Lorenzo looked down at his reflection in the espresso's dark surface. For the first time in a long while, he didn't like the man staring back. The next evening, Amelia arrived for work to find a commotion near the kitchen. The manager pulled her aside, almost trembling. "Mr. De Luca is back," he whispered, "and he specifically asked for you to serve him." Amelia frowned. "Me? Why?" She walked out, and there he was, sitting at the same table, but this time without his assistant, without his arrogance. Just a man with tired eyes and a notebook open beside him. When she approached, he smiled faintly. "Miss Torres. I came to apologize properly." "You already did," she said gently. "No," he shook his head, "that was pride talking. This time, it's sincerity." He handed her an envelope. "For your time last night, and your lesson." She didn't take it. "I don't accept money for being human, sir." He smiled, almost sadly. "Then at least sit for a moment. Tell me your story." She hesitated but sat. She told him about her mother's illness, her double shifts, her love for languages, her dream of one day opening a small cafe where people could feel at home, no matter where they came from. Lorenzo listened in silence. Every word chipped away at the wall he'd built between himself and the world. Weeks passed. Lorenzo began visiting La Bellinotte often, not to inspect, but to observe, to learn. He started greeting the staff by name. He ate what they recommended instead of what the menu dictated. And one night, after the restaurant closed, he asked Amelia to walk with him outside. The city glowed around them, reflections of gold and rainlight on the pavement. "Do you know," he said softly, "I used to be a waiter too. Back in Naples. They laughed at my accent when I moved to Milan. I promised myself I'd never be small again. But I think I confused small with humble." Amelia smiled. "Sometimes, life humbles us in ways pride never could." He looked at her for a long time. "You reminded me of something I forgot, that respect costs nothing, but means everything." A month later, Amelia received a letter in the mail. It bore Lorenzo's signature and a small golden crest. Inside was a simple note. La Bellinotte Scholarship, awarded to Amelia Torres. For reminding us that humanity is the true language of greatness. And below that, a full scholarship to study hospitality and business in Florence, Italy, with living expenses covered. Amelia cried, not because of the money, but because someone who once looked down on her now believed in her enough to lift her up. Years later, Café Gratitudine opened on a quiet corner of Florence, a warm, sunlit café filled with the smell of fresh pastries and laughter. On the wall behind the counter hung a small plaque. "Kindness is fluent in every language." And every morning, a handwritten letter arrived from New York, from Lorenzo himself, asking simply, "How's the sunshine of La Bellinotte today?" Moral. No language, no title, no fortune defines a person's worth. What matters most is the kindness that speaks without words, the one that can humble the powerful and uplift the forgotten. Because in the end, humanity is the richest language of all.